Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship advice subreddit. The post is titled, "I am in love with my former sister-in-law. I'm finally at a point where I can't stand this anymore. I've been in love with this woman for a very long time, maybe a couple of years at this point, and I'm not sure if I should just let it go or attempt to make something with her. I met my ex-wife, her sister, when I was 23 years old, and the relationship developed very quickly. By 26, I had my son and daughter and had gotten married. However, within months of being married, my ex-wife had an affair. But worse than that, the man she cheated with got her into heroin. After confronting her about this, she said she was going to get help, but instead, she left in the night. I haven't heard from her in 4 years, and the last I've heard, she's still with that guy and they are homeless in Las Vegas. I'm not sure how true that is, but being focused on holding it together for the kids, I really don't have the time to chase her down, nor do I want to after what she did. I ended up getting a divorce in absentia. I did, however, maintain a very positive relationship with my in-laws after the fact. Every other weekend, my kids stay over with their grandparents on that side, and they pretty much treat me like a son still. I still go to parties at Christmas and am reasonably liked by the family. Nobody talks about my ex anymore, mainly to avoid worrying my kids. My oldest, my son, is very hurt by his mother leaving. He's 9 now, and I've had to get therapy for him after he told me he hoped his mother was dead. She had been getting verbally abusive toward the end, which was when he was around 5 or 6. Anyhow, in the year following my ex leaving, her sister and her boyfriend started coming around a lot to see the kids. They knew I worked a lot and would babysit and call it practice as they wanted to have children of their own. My kids loved them and were spoiled by them, which I didn't mind because we all needed a little positivity. They got married and were very in love. However, her husband was killed in a workplace accident shortly after the birth of their daughter. It has been extremely rough and painful for everyone involved, as one can imagine. I followed my sister-in-law's example and began to take her daughter to give her time to herself if things got too hard to deal with or she needed alone time. She's been in grief counseling for a few years, but she still wears her ring and has told me she can't ever imagine dating again. I talk to her about him frequently and she's gotten to a better place, but she's still very much in love with him. I can't imagine that sort of pain. Over the last 2 years, we've been a more constant presence in each other's lives. My kids love their aunt, and I have her over for dinner a couple of times a week. My daughter and her daughter have become close and love being around each other, so they have sleepovers. I've moved on from my ex, but the idea of dating possibly someone as dangerous as their mother has kept me out of the dating scene. I don't know when it happened, but slowly I began to develop feelings for my sister-in-law. She's a great mom, especially considering what she's been through. She's one of the sweetest people I know, and her sense of humor always leaves me laughing and happy. Then I started realizing that I'm physically attracted to her. I've always felt kind of guilty about it because her late husband was a good friend. And since she's obviously still grieving, I've kept it to myself. Since the pandemic started, we've been together a bit more because social distancing has caused us to lose contact with most other people. Nothing romantic has ever been discussed, and I try not to flirt, but last week it was very late, and after the kids went to bed, I made us a few drinks, not enough to get drunk, but she decided she'd rather spend the night, so I took my couch. I woke up to breakfast this morning and the 4 of us felt like the sort of family I've always wanted. She even kissed my forehead, which is not something she normally does. I still didn't say anything, but after she left, I found my son quietly playing with his toys in his room. He looked upset, so I asked him if he was alright. He told me point blank, in the way only a kid can, that he wishes my sister-in-law was his mother. I sat down with him and asked him why he thought that way, and he gave a whole bunch of reasons. Her being nice to him, that she never yells about anything, he likes seeing her at his grandparents', and she draws pictures with him, which I didn't know they did. By the end of it, my heart, which is already melting for this woman, wound up even more. When dropping them off with their grandparents, I tried to breach the subject with her folks to get a sense of how people would feel. I made a joke about her and me acting like a married couple sometimes, and they didn't laugh and were kind of standoffish friendly, but either they know something or they disapprove. It's getting too hard for me to ignore or pretend it's not affecting me. I'm in love with her. Either I've got to let it go and find some way not to think of her, or I have to find some way to navigate the situation and tell her everything. If anybody out there has any insight on how to approach a widow, especially one who is married to a friend, with this sort of intention, I could really use your help. Mabelism said, dude, do not run it by your in-laws before running it by her. Talk to her and see if it would be something she is into, and crucially, if she says no, accept it and do not let it hinder your relationship with her. To this, OP said, that is the plan thus far. I only made the remark to the in-laws just to see what they would say, where I could back out if questioned on it. If she says no, I will kill it right there, apologize for the weirdness, and learn to be okay with that. Disco Duck said, wow, that is a lot you have all been through. I think the person who will help you navigate this is your sister-in-law. Your in-laws are processing all of this in their own way, and it would be unlikely they would see things from your angle, at least not in the beginning. My advice would be to tell her your feelings or some lighter version of them. Express your desire to continue having her in your life and your hope that, with time and continued healing, the two of you could become more. I would tell her you have infinite patience for her healing process and that there is no pressure for more unless or until she feels it is time. Above all, I would tell her you want her as a part of your family's life, no matter what her feelings are. I hope you find your way through this and that you all find healing. To this, OP said, I've asked her to dinner when her parents have the kids, and if it feels right, I'm going to try and test the waters. The beach is across the street from where we are going, so maybe a night stroll. I do have all the patience in the world for her healing process, as her late husband was a very close friend of mine too, and I sometimes get teary-eyed thinking of him. I feel sudden tugs of guilt for that reason, like somebody might think something morbid as if I was waiting in the wings for her, but I only developed these feelings after she started coming around more after he passed. It's not just my affection for her, it's the way my kids light up when they see her. I've never looked at a prospective partner and thought, would they make a good mom? But she's so wonderful with them, it softens me. I hope she feels something remotely like this. Update. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who gave me advice on how to proceed and for the ideas and things I could maybe say to my former sister-in-law. What I ended up doing, shortly after making the first post, I remembered that my children were spending Sunday night over at their grandparents' house, and typically when they do this, my niece, my sister-in-law's daughter, will join them. I allow these bi-weekly visits because I think it's important for them to maintain a healthy relationship with their mother's parents. And my sister-in-law lets her daughter go because she enjoys playing with my daughter. Well, I realized that we'd both have a free night. Normally, I'd just game or hit the gym an extra night, but I figured it would be the perfect opportunity to see my sister-in-law without the kids being around. So I sent her a text saying, hey, kids are out this Sunday, was thinking you might want to get dinner. It was a fairly upscale place that reopened 2 months or so ago for outdoor dining. I never ask her out to dinner and we're almost never alone together or without a child in the other room. She says she'd love to, and so my panic starts setting in because now I've actually got to act on my feelings. I ask her if she'd prefer meeting at my place and taking one car or meeting at the restaurant. She says she'll come by my place first. I'm a bit more cleaned up than normal, dressed up but not overly dressed. She shows up and my god, she's in a very nice evening dress, makeup, really looking stunning. I must have been slack-jawed for a second, I had to be. We make a little small talk, compliment how we look, but I still don't have my nerve yet and she isn't pushing the issue. Dinner is really wonderful. They had a live jazz type group playing, definitely coming back to this place. She tells me this is the first time she's really had an adult social outing that didn't involve her daughter in a few years, and I mentioned that it's about as long for me. We're laughing, joking, talking, a little casual touching here and there. I can't seem to find my nerve though. I'm afraid of ruining this moment, so I just submit to having fun. But as we're leaving, my mind snaps and I'm just like, fuck it. And when we stand to go back to the car, I give her my arm and we walk back to the car, arm in arm, no awkwardness. Nobody mentioning that it's happening. I open her door for her and plan on driving her back to her car. As I open the door, she stops me. Looking sort of nervous, she just outright tells me to stop and that she wants to kiss me. There was no alcohol at dinner, so this is all her. So I pull her in and we kiss. I can barely describe how wonderful it felt to finally touch her. Well, the kissing goes on outside this restaurant with her leaned against my car for at least half an hour. When we finally break, we share a few more dreamy looks before we get in the car and drive back to my place. She's holding my hand as I'm driving. I don't think I've ever been happier. I confess to her that I've started having feelings for her a long time ago, but with the terrible things we went through, I didn't want to scare her away. She tells me that she's carried a torch for about 6 months herself. At that time, I had gone on a couple of Tinder dates, and since we were just friends, I described what a mess of a time those dates were. She tells me she began feeling intensely jealous and angry that I was seeing these girls. It was about that time it clicked in her mind that she had somehow developed feelings for me. As it turns out, I didn't approach her because of her late husband, and she wasn't approaching me because she was afraid I'd see too much of her sister, my ex-wife, in her and start to resent her for it. I invited her in after we got back home, and we decided to try and fight off the desire to jump straight into bed and just sat on the couch, snuggling and talking about what we would need to do to make this a working relationship. There were some really teary moments there. We, of course, talked about her late husband a little and where she feels she is in the grief process, saying, I don't want to rush her and that I'm not going anywhere. If she needs time, I'll wait as long as she needs me to. She says that she feels like she's in a place where she could love again, that she's long past feeling guilty for having feelings for me. It was something she struggled with. She then brought up her sister and the obvious questions a few people asked in the comments. What would we do if my ex ever decided to show her face around here again or try to get back into my kids' lives? What if she comes back reformed and apologetic? Would I take her back? I told my sister-in-law that's a hard no, that I've forgiven her for cheating on me, but I will never forgive her for what she did to my son. He was quite a sunshiny and happy boy before his mother started cheating, using, and lashing out at him. He's doing better now, but for a long while, his behavior and negativity for somebody so young troubled me. My sister-in-law was concerned how he might react to her, as unlike our respective daughters, he is old enough to understand everything. I told her not to tell him as it might embarrass him, but not too long ago he told me he wished his aunt was his mom instead. We said we were going to take it slow and not go too fast with things, but the kissing started again, and since we were in private this time, we gave up the fight to stay out of the bedroom. I have had fantasies throughout the duration of my feelings for her, and getting to pet her face in the morning was one I finally got to live out. Moving forward, we are going to establish date nights and work on building on our already strong foundation. When we inevitably tell our folks we're a couple, we're going to do it together, but that's where I'm at. That's it, that's my update. If the subreddit allows, maybe I'll do another to say how the parents, in-laws, and kids take the news. 2 years of wishing she was mine, and now she is. Better not mess this up. Update 2. Well, we've told everyone, and for the most part, it's gone over fairly well. When our respective kids were with my in-laws, Sylvia and I went to see my parents. They've met her a handful of times, but they don't really know her too well as my in-laws and my family rarely attended mutual functions. They at least recognize who she was. My dad isn't a particularly sentimental person, so I have no idea what he thinks about it, but my mother is on board. She did ask, "Does Jess know?" And we told her that I haven't even spoken with her in 4 years and Sylvia hasn't heard from her in 2. We said we'd cross that bridge when we got to it. Other than that, my folks just seemed happy for me. Yesterday, we attended a small family gathering for Labor Day at my in-laws. We knew the reception here would be a little more chilly as they're all also related to my ex-wife. My parents did us the favor of taking the kids to the zoo for the afternoon and for ice cream too. We arrived at the party together and, of course, everybody was wondering where the kids were. It felt like a million things were telling me not to do this, but I took her by the hand and we both explained the kids were not there because we intended to tell everyone that we are now a couple. This wasn't a huge crowd, maybe 8 people, but it really felt like I was announcing it to a stadium. I don't know how we expected it to go, but several of her aunts were very pleased with this. We got some hugs. At first, nobody even mentioned my ex-wife. They were just happy because they had all settled on Sylvia never dating again. It was only my mother-in-law that caused any issues. She told the party that she knew we were an item because I was always giving Sylvia puppy dog eyes and told them Sylvia talked about me nonstop. She asked how long we had been dating in secret, and I told her only a week. She scoffed and told me that she didn't think starting a relationship off by lying would be a smart move. She then accused, albeit in a joking manner, to the guests that Sylvia and I had vanished at a pool party in June to smooch. Her mother and father asked to talk with us after the party and asked us just how serious things were, and like my parents, asked whether my ex-wife knew or not. When I said no and that her opinion shouldn't matter given she abandoned her family 4 years ago, they said they would be more comfortable with everything if I was to tell Jessica that I am now dating her sister. They are both intensely afraid that my ex will return sober and renewed, make an attempt to make amends, discover that I am now in love with her younger sister, and relapse. It sounded to me as if they knew something I didn't, and as it turns out, Jess has been calling and talking to them for a year now, and they just haven't told me. I was upset they kept this from me. Sylvia was very upset too, because not once after her husband's death has Jess ever tried to call her. They showed me her Facebook profile, the one she blocked me from, and there she is looking pretty normal, not like the burned out husk she became when she left. I have to admit that seeing her not looking like the junkie she became made me feel a little better, and Sylvia too. Her parents kept their contact with her a secret because she is ashamed of what she's done and feels that she deserves to lose her kids and couldn't face them after all that happened. Sylvia's parents gave me her phone number and asked that I please call her and speak with her. I told them that my feelings for Sylvia are real and there is no chance I would reconcile with Jess. My father-in-law seemed to nod in approval, but my mother-in-law honestly looked like she was hoping we'd fix things. After we left, I talked to Sylvia about it, and though we discussed it before, a circumstance where Jess returns, we decided to revisit the conversation in light of these new revelations. I told Sylvia that I am in love with her, my whole heart is hers, and that my feelings of love for her are something deeper and stronger than anything I ever felt for my ex-wife. She ended up crying from the stress of the situation, anger with her parents for keeping secrets, and anger with her sister for not calling her or offering condolences at all after her husband's death. She then admitted that she is afraid I might leave her if her sister returns, and I assured her this will never happen. It took some long hugs and a lot of kisses to smooth over the situation, but by the time we went to pick up the kids, we were holding hands together again and feeling more connected than ever. She's been spending the night at my place pretty frequently since we've been together, so the kids don't see anything. I've been setting my alarm for 5 in the morning, getting up and moving to the couch. Well, the morning after, we decided to tell the little ones what is going on. Our daughters seemed very happy, but they are too young to really grasp what's actually taking place. All they know is they can play together more. I did take my son aside, just me and him, and asked him if he was okay with this and what he thought about it. He asked if we'd all be living together, and I told him maybe someday. He asked if this made his aunt his stepmom now, and I said he's free to call her what he's comfortable with, and I will respect it, and she would too, because we both love him. He then asked me a lot of questions about his own mother, things he had never asked me before, and I answered pretty much everything he wanted to know. I toned some of my answers down a bit. He's learned a little about the dangers of drugs from school programs, and I was finally honest to that degree when I told him his mom had a problem and she made some bad choices. He asked me why his mother didn't love him, and that broke my heart. I assured him the best I could that his mother did love him, she had just made a lot of terrible mistakes, and that sometimes adults just don't do the right thing when they should. He asked me if I still loved her. I told him that I hoped she would get better and that I don't want her to be sick anymore, but that she hurt me and him so badly that I couldn't love her like I did before. I'm not sure he got all of that, but I tried explaining it to him the best I could. All that aside, he has been so much happier and less withdrawn since Sylvia has been with us, and he's always going out of his way to do all the typical kid stuff to impress her that I did with my own mom. At the end of the day, I still have that phone call with the ex to dread, but having Sylvia with me, being able to kiss her and hold her at night really put some joy back into me that's been gone for a very long time. I don't think I even knew how unhappy I had been all these years until I realized how happy she made me feel. We've been doing all the happy young lover stuff. She's been leaving me love letters in my work lunchbox, even little poems, and I had flowers sent to her place of work. She mentioned that a few of the ladies at work had been trying to get her to ask me out for several months, so I figured the flowers would both make her happy and be a firm thank you wink to the office girls. Thank you to everyone who commented or sent me messages on the first and second posts. They really made my day and helped me keep my cool to confess to her. Feel free to ask me anything, but I think this just about does it for my updates. Update 3. What you're about to read is a comment I wrote last week, and I've just copied and pasted it as it's pretty much good enough to be a post. It details how the phone call with my ex-wife went and provides a little more information. I did talk to her back in September. I keep meaning to write an update for this, but life got pretty hectic. I did write a 10-paragraph update about a month ago, but my laptop crashed, I lost it, and I got discouraged. My ex-wife is in a much better place and is in recovery 8 months clean by this point. She finally told me the details of the affair and how things happened, how she got into drugs. Not stuff I really wanted to hear, but she's trying to get her life together, and as much as I dislike the things she's done to me and the kids, I want her to get healthy. I shouldn't, but I still worry about her sometimes. Anyhow, I got around to telling her about Sylvia and me, and she was dumbfounded by it. When I first met my ex, she was 19 and Sylvia was 14, and in her mind, she always viewed her as a kid in relation to me. To be fair, I did used to refer to Sylvia as her kid sister, but when she remembered that her sister is a fully grown adult who was married and had a child, her hinting that I was a creep stopped. She did ask if I had feelings for Sylvia while I was married, and I denied that. We talked about the kids, and she was really regretful and crying throughout the conversation. She has no idea how she'd be able to face them again. I wanted to say something reassuring, but I don't want to give her the impression that I want her in their lives. Cordial, even friendly, but I'm not going to be stupid. She and Sylvia talked for a while too. I didn't eavesdrop intentionally, but from the bits I heard and what I was told, they talked about Sylvia's husband. As it turns out, my ex had gotten arrested for a break-in that week and spent it in jail. She didn't even know he had passed until a couple of weeks after the funeral, and by that point, she felt saying anything would make things worse. Things went as well as could be expected. Sylvia, the 3 kids, and I have been spending almost every day together, and I haven't been happier in years. My son and daughter love all the motherly attention they've been getting, and I'm really loving getting to learn more about my little niece. Life's good. Busy, but it's good. Thanks for asking. I might just copy and paste this as my update. Alright, that was my comment update, and nothing has really changed in the week since I wrote it. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer what I can when I can, but during this season, my workload increases dramatically and I don't have as much time to be on here as I did when I first posted. I'm so glad I got up the nerve to try with her. I love her so much. I'd been so long without a romantic partner that I forgot what being in love or feeling loved felt like. Now that I remember, it's shocking to me that I didn't realize how alone and miserable I really was. I mean, for Christ's sake, we played Scrabble last night and for some reason it made me ridiculously happy. Update 4. It has nearly been a year since my former sister-in-law, Sylvia, and I decided to begin dating. For anyone not familiar with the story, here is a quick summary. I have 2 children and had been married to her sister, my ex-wife. A combination of cheating, drug abuse, and child abuse ended that relationship. My ex ran off to another state with her lover. I remained on good terms with her family as they all took my side. Sylvia and her late husband became very close to me, but we tragically lost him to a workplace accident. In the years following that, Sylvia and I became close as our daughters are best friends. And eventually, she and I both developed romantic feelings for each other. A year later, we are living together and I couldn't be happier. We're currently living together and are in the market for a new home. Our children are really benefiting from having 2 parents around to care for them. Our daughters have begun to call each other sisters, and my son is accepted in the same way. They're basically just normal siblings. It is interesting with my son. When he is talking to his friends or a teacher, he refers to Sylvia as his mom. But when calling her or talking to her, he still calls her auntie. And our daughters do the same with me, calling me uncle. It confuses some people we meet, but it's always an interesting story to tell. We haven't had much contact with my ex-wife since my last post, though from what we hear, she's doing much better. She has a halfway decent job, a boyfriend, and is keeping clean. I don't like to think about her being reintroduced into my children's lives, but if she continues to be a clean and well-rounded person, it will make it much harder for me to deny her visitation should she seek it. Not just from a legal standpoint, but from a moral one as well. Neither Sylvia nor I look forward to that day, but the worries seem far off. Her parents have stopped their prodding into our business and haven't tried to force the ex back into our lives as we feared. Our kids spend the weekend with them now, as my two were already doing that beforehand. So Sylvia and I get to spend Friday night and most of Saturday going on dates and having some alone time. Our mutual friends were all pretty surprised by this and have been very supportive as well. They try to be polite and not mention my ex-wife, but every so often it does come up. Mostly, everyone is just happy that we found happiness together. One side of the family that I failed to mention in all of this was the family of Sylvia's late husband. As you might expect, her daughter still sees them regularly and they are very happy and accepting of the relationship. His father even told me point blank that he was glad it was me because he thought he would hate his daughter-in-law bringing some strange man into his granddaughter's life. We haven't had many gatherings, of course, because of the pandemic, but the few get-togethers we have included them and will always include them. Speaking of her late husband, Sylvia and I have talked quite a bit about our feelings, and she's even had me come along to one of her therapy sessions. Despite everything going so well and the immense and wonderful love we have for each other, his memory and presence will always be a part of our lives. She decided on her own that out of respect for me, she had to take her wedding band off, something that caused a lot of sadness, as you can imagine. I told her that she didn't need to do this and that were we to get married, she's got two hands. After I said this, she began to wear it on a necklace instead. She wears an engagement ring now. I don't have any crazy story about how the engagement went down. I didn't spring it on her in some public spectacle, but there were tears and hugs and kisses. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you all so much for all the positive words of encouragement. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.